Okay, hello, good evening, Mumbai. How are you all doing? I'm Deepthi, and I'm live, so obviously there's going to be a conversation and yet another guest. Now, today the conversation is on a topic that has been spoken about a plenty and discussed about, but I feel the more spoken about it is, the better, the more impactful it's going to be. Now, yesterday was World Mental Health Day, and so today I have someone adept in the field of mental health to talk about the topic. So please join me in welcoming Anandita Vaghani, founder and mental health counselor at Unfix, a mental health management organization. So I'm going to bring her on. Okay, she's going to join us in a moment. Hi Anandita, I've sent you an invite if you could accept. Or if you haven't received it, can you send me a request to join, please? Thank you all for joining in. Anandita, if you can watch the live and send me a request, I'll accept it. I have sent you the request. Okay, I have your request. Hi Anandita, how are you
How are
doing?
you? I'm sorry, some technical difficulties from my end. For some reason, I couldn't find your request.
No, that's all right. And welcome to What's Up Mumbai Live.
So great to be here and so great to speak to you.
And thank you for joining us to talk about something so relevant. And as I mentioned earlier, this is something, that we've spoken about plenty so many times. But I feel the more we speak about, the lesser it is. I think the more we need to speak about, and that's mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And being World Mental Health Day, it's just the right timing to address this topic.
Absolutely. So I'll start right away. Now, firstly, I want to know, about Unfix and how does it help individuals, view their emotions as a compass for personal growth?
So, as humans, we tend to simplify things, right? Where I call it, we're cognitive misers. We're always trying to put things in labels. We're always trying to fix things. So, if we're feeling a certain way, often our parents have told us this, or we think that we need to fix it, right? With food, with, Netflix binging, or just scrolling on your phone. And when you're feeling upset, these are your go to strategies because we want to fix the feeling, right? But fixing something sort of assumes that we are inherently broken, which is not the case. Feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling even happy, all these things are part of the human condition, right?
Absolutely.
And when we are able to see our emotions as messengers, we realize that it can really have the power to change our lives, right? So even if you take an emotion like sadness, right? Maybe sadness is an indication that you need to connect back to your values.
Correct.
Maybe loneliness is an indication that says, hey, you need to socialize more, you need connection more in your life. So emotions are not to be fixed or escaped, they need to be tuned into. And really, that's what has led me to naming my practice Unfix. So here emotions have a way of sending signals through different parts of our bodies, right? When we feel anxious, we feel nauseous, we feel acidic, and we feel muscle tension. When we feel angry, our body gets tighter, we're sort of clenching our fists and we feel uneasy. And so this is the mind body connection in action. And what the mind suppresses, the body tends to express, which is why it's so important to address these things when they do come up in our minds rather than fixing it. I encourage clients to sit with their feelings, to understand them.
But
And
times that we've heard that when feeling sad, we are tuned to, or we're pushed to, urge to kind of control them. And I, for one, always felt that shouldn't control them. We should, because they're emotions. And I think every human needs to vent. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because that's been my, thought process that, once sad, it's okay to show you're feeling sad. If you're feeling, down and out, it's okay to. The more I think you hold back, the more I think it gets more acute. I mean, I don't know if I'm correct in that way, but that's how usually we talk and tune our minds and our body to calm down.
yeah, 100%. I think the more we feel like if we ignore things, they'll go away. Sometimes ignorance is not bliss. Sometimes we need to really understand what that emotion has to say. And if we don't, that emotion will persist and show up in other ways in our life.
Absolutely. Now, what really inspired you, to conflict, and how does your personal journey, relate to mental health advocacy that you are pursuing now?
Such an interesting question you ask because all of us in this career, right, in the helping profession, have been inspired by something they've been through to be here, to be able to do the same thing for other people. Growing up, I had a learning disability, and there was not much awareness about it at that time. And so I tended to internalize a lot. Of course, I had my family for some amazing support. But I always thought that if I had a therapist to speak to who could teach me the right tools, it would change my perception of myself and my relationship with myself, right? Um, and back then, I just felt like I had to hide it. And hiding it also means lying to yourself and not being who you really are. So since that day, and I really started researching tools on my own. I would read books about mental health. I think one of the first books I read was Emotional Intelligence. And I started working a lot on myself. And I said, wow, this is a really cool technique to be able to talk to someone, to gain these tools. And that life doesn't have to be so hard. Like you can lean on someone for support, for the right professional tools to work through things. And that really helped me find my way back to myself. And since that day, I've always hoped that one day I get to start my own clinic and offer a safe space for clients to, to talk about their stories, to learn and unlearn patterns of behavior that could empower them and change their lives. So that was my personal story.
And because you're going through something really, build like a profession around it. I think that's a very and something to mental health. is, well, I hate to say it, but yes, it is a brave thing to do, to come out and to uh, imbibe people with, that kind of strength and help. What other key strategies, insights you utilize as a mental health counselor at Unfit?
So I think as for strategies and insights, I work on a behavioral model called cognitive behavioral therapy. What we really believe through this model is that our thoughts and our feelings and our behavior are all related to each other. So if I think a certain way, then it's natural I'll behave according to my thought. And that thought might lead to a certain mood, right? So I really start from the thought level. And where do our thoughts come from? Our thoughts come from our belief systems. So then I also tap a little bit into the past to see, these symptoms that we're seeing or these kinds of behaviors that we're seeing, they're at the tip of the iceberg. But what's really at the bottom? Let's get it all out. Let's explore some of the patterns you have. And let's explore how you talk to yourself, because that really can change everything. And how you talk to yourself is through your thoughts. So those are a few of the tools that I've been using.
Okay. But, you know, there's a wide, so mental health doesn't mean only, something just kind of flustered with thoughts. It can mean a lot of things. Now, in what ways does Unfit address this wide range of mental challenges? It can be anxiety, depression, it can be eating disorders. There's so many others.
So a lot of these, what they have in common is this thought that I'm not enough, right? So we really need to explore the stories behind this I'm not enough feeling. Where did you first hear that story about yourself that you weren't enough? What made you feel like you're not enough? So I'll just give you an example that I give all my clients that come in for their first session, right? Say they come in with the same challenge that I had a fight with someone. Okay. Now, common situation, all of us go through it, right? At some point, say client one comes in and says, I had a fight with someone, but their thought pattern might be, it's my fault, or it's always my fault. The second client might come in and say, I had a fight, but it's always the friend's fault. Yeah, she always does this, or he always does this. And yet a third client might come in thinking that maybe there's something going on in this friend's life that I haven't checked in on in a while. Maybe that's why dynamic is changing. And out of the three clients, right, the third one is what we want to make you feel like the most. To feel like I can do what's in my control. But apart from that, there are also situational factors that I need to understand. So I need to think in a more balanced way, taking other factors into account, right? And I think so as a counselor, I will always try to find the belief about your thoughts, and what you're telling yourself about your thoughts. So what are you telling yourself about the anxiety? What are you telling yourself about the sadness? What are you telling yourself about the fight you had with your friend? So tapping into those thoughts and reframing them is ultimately what helps us change our narrative. And that can really change the way you behave. And it can change your relationship with others, but also with yourself.
Absolutely. Being a counselor, I'm sure it can be very well because you're addressing so many issues, some serious ones as well, I'm sure. So, what challenges do you personally face? You
So honestly, everything inside of me is like, don't say you face a challenge, because I just love this career so much. And I honestly feel like everyone who's in this career is in it because they love it. But yeah, I think that there are some challenges that come with being in the healthcare system. Because there are especially tough jobs where you think of a doctor, or a therapist or a psychiatrist. Most jobs have a difference between professional and personal, right? And suppose you're working as an analyst, you're not necessarily taking all of that home with you. But I sorry, I think I might have lost you for a second there.
Yes, I think your video just pixelated for a bit.
Sorry, can you see me now?
Yes,
And hear me?
yes, I can. I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. So what I was saying is that most jobs usually have a difference between the personal and professional, right? That, if you're a business analyst, then sometimes we can sort of separate that. And when you go home, you're not taking it home with you. I think what's really different about healthcare professions is there's less of a difference between personal and professional, and you end up taking a lot of stories and things that clients bring with you back home. So drawing boundaries is definitely one of the biggest challenges, right? I think you can't be a good counselor if you don't know where to draw your boundaries.
Is that as a counselor to go through is how to filter your personal emotions with your professional, to talk to your clients or your patients. Now, can you share any success stories? I'm sure there must be many, since you're so adept, in the field, and, who have received assistance from Unfix, and how, in terms of improving mental well-being, what other services does Unfix provide? Of course, apart from your counseling.
So we are a mental health counseling, agency. So we do deal with clients who come in with challenges, with stress, with anxiety, with PTSD. I think apart from that, something I really like doing personally is contributing. So whether that's articles to the newspaper or magazines, I really like putting the word out there because I think breaking stigma is a huge part of our job as counselors.
Yes. Yeah, that was my last question to you. That there is a huge stigma attached to mental health issues. The moment we say, and I think that's the reason why most of us, kind of hesitate to seek help, because we don't want to admit it to ourselves that there is a problem. And I think that is the core, I think, of this, entire, being a human being, that we don't want to accept. Acceptance is the first step, I feel, because at times when I feel, low, I have not, thankfully, had that acute challenges. That's the way, I feel that when you start accepting that you have an issue, I think that's what takes you to seek help. But even after that, then there might be, a lot of denial, that, I don't want to seek help because what are people going to think? They're going to
Yeah.
think I'm crazy.
Yeah. So I think everyone has these hidden demons that no one even talks about because they feel like no one else is going through them. But that just plays into each other. And chances are that if you share that you've gone through something, someone might share a relatable experience to you. And I think one more thing you point out there is this resistance to seek therapy as a society because we feel like asking for help is weak, right? There's this misconception that asking for help is weak when it's actually a very strong thing to admit that there's something to work on, like you said, right? And I think that makes you stronger, not weaker. I think the second assumption there is that if I see a therapist, I will always be dependent on the therapist. And like I tell most of my clients, right? I'm here to help you swim, right? But eventually, I want you to be in a place where you're swimming without floats. So I want
Correct.
to equip you with tools that you can use far beyond the therapy room so that actually you can be your own therapist. That's my goal with clients. So that's
Absolutely.
a common misconception people have that needs to be changed.
Absolutely. I completely agree. In fact, we have a question from a viewer, and he's just put
Okay.
in that someone is going through a difficult phase. How should we subtly encourage them to seek therapy? That's a good question, because we are not always on the receiving end. Sometimes we have to be at the giving end
Yeah.
also. So yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, so it's definitely very hard to nudge someone into receiving help because I think that can be received in a negative way. I think too bad for us, but a lot of our language has been, we it's like used as a derogatory thing that you should seek help.
Yes.
You need someone, right? So I think the way we frame that sentence really is everything. So instead of you need to see someone or you need help, framing it as I've been concerned about you because I've been noticing that you're behaving a little differently, or I've been concerned about you because you're stressed out, and I know that it can be hard to seek help, but I also know And I think that maybe you can make that first phone call and see what therapy is like. You don't even have to commit to it.
Correct.
Or we never have to speak about it again if you're not comfortable. But this is just an observation. And because life can be easier for you, this is my suggestion. So please don't take it the wrong way, but it's coming out of a place of concern.
But a lot of times, people take it, in a different way, and they might take offense to it that you
Yeah,
got
definitely.
by that.
So some things that you can do really is to provide them with information. We feel anxious when we don't have enough information about something.
Right.
So help them research about therapy, what it entails, because they might have a lot of misconceptions that's leading to that resistance. So give them the answers they're looking for, or connect them to someone who can give them the answers they're looking for. But I think eventually the first thing that you need for therapy is the willingness to change. So unfortunately, that willingness you're not going to be able to give to someone. That is something that you can subtly nudge, and eventually that comes from themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anandita, for sharing such insights. Because, like I said, I can't say it enough that these days, in times that are so competitive, my honestly concern has been mostly towards the young people, the youngsters who are facing so much competition everywhere. Whether just to be, and I think, how far do you think? Because I feel social media has played a huge part in it as well. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think social media, right, it's a double-edged sword. It's the way you use it. So I see a lot of accounts that make people feel conscious about themselves because, like it's a common thing. We look at things as a highlight reel of someone's life and we feel like, oh, well, I don't have that life, or I'm not going on holiday like they are, or I don't have the body that they have. So really be careful about how you use it. Make sure that you're following people who are lifting you up, not dragging you down. So I think that's the first tip I would use. And the second is that social media, if used correctly, can really be a space for community, for
Absolutely.
sharing your challenges, right? Like I have a client of mine who actually loves taking photographs, and that's how he shares his passion with the world. And that gives him a lot of joy to be able to share that with other people. So it does have positive benefits as well. And then sometimes I also have clients who post about their journeys on mental health online. And you'll be surprised at the amount of support and the amount of me too that they receive. So really, I think it's a double-edged sword. It can also make you feel less alone in some ways.
But tell me, what is the age group that you have experienced that is going through these mental health challenges uh, the most? Is it the youngsters, or is it the other category?
I wish I could give you a statistic for it, but really, I feel like therapy really is for everyone because at every life stage, we're presented with some challenge or the other, right? I could only go by the amount of people that report, right, mental health challenges, and from the reporting, it does seem like younger people seem to report a lot more because there's less of a stigma there than older people.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel that, the more we have started talking about it, I think the youngsters, or Gen Z, or, Gen Y, I think they're more, uh, adaptable. I think they adapt these a little bit more. They're absorbing it in a better way.
Definitely. Yeah. But I must
Thank
say, I also have a really receptive 75-year-old client who is equally just able to change his thought patterns. It all comes down to your willingness to change.
Absolutely. I think the kind of help you get also changes mindset.
Definitely. Yeah.
Thank you, Anandita, for joining us and for sharing such wonderful insights, and such relevant ones, I feel. I hope everyone who's been watching this has taken something from this. And if you feel that, there's a stigma attached, I think there is nothing of the sort. Your mental health counts. And if you think you need help, or you need extra information, go seek it.
Yeah. And something that I'd love to leave you guys with is if you're hesitating to make that call, I understand why you're hesitating, but once you do it, it won't feel that bad. So all it takes is making that first call. And you should know that the person on the receiving end will almost always receive it in a way that makes you feel validated and supported. So don't knock it till you try it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those wonderful words. And Andita, thank you so much for joining us and all the best to you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.